How's it going, everyone? B. Kaimana here to talk about my personal favorite games for 2023. There were so many great games that came out this year, and also so many games that I've not even been able to play yet. While not all of these came out this year, heck, some of them aren't even full games. These are all games I spent a good amount of time playing this year and had a lot of fun with. Also, heads up for spoilers for any of the games I talk about in this video. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have definitely had a lot of issues. I was hoping the DLC would be able to help these games out by expanding more on the story, and if the areas they let us explore were a bit smaller, that might help out with technical issues as well. When I started the Teal Mask, I sadly quickly lost hope when it came to the technical issues being fixed. It is pretty much the same as the rest of the game. Slowdowns happening regularly and many graphical issues appearing throughout the game. So, maybe the story will be good. I really enjoyed Arven's story in the main game and how everything came together for the final act of the story. It was alright. Ogerpon is a fun new Pokemon, and I enjoyed Carmine and Kieran, and once I finished the Teal Mask, I was interested to see where they would be going with the two of them, especially Kieran after the end credit they gave us. The Indigo Disc once again started with some graphical issues, especially once I reached the terrarium. But when I saw the first trailer for it, there were definitely a lot of fun features that I was interested in trying out. The terrarium has been a fun location to explore around, and the variety of Pokemon that are there in the area have been fun to see, although it does still feel similar to exploring the rest of the world of Paldea. It's not too different, except now there are a bunch of Minecraft blocks across the world. The Blueberry League storyline has also been fun to go through. Kieran has a fun new design change, and seeing how he's become the new top dog of the league was exciting to hear for our eventual fight. For the fights between the other members, even with mostly level 100 Pokemon in my party, the battles against the Blueberry Elite Four have been good challenges. I'd easily say my favorite trial was Drayton's. Make me have to completely change up my team to one with only Pokemon that were caught in the terrarium was a fun challenge, forcing me to think of new strategies with what I had. While a Flygon and a Skarmory did most of the work, it was still fun figuring out different options that I had available. The final fight against Kieran was also a good challenge, and also having Ogerpon in my party, it was fun seeing new dialogue with Carmine and Kieran talking about seeing Ogerpon in my party. But once he's defeated, we get to access the next part of the DLC, returning back to Area 0. And what I thought was going to be a bigger part of the story, then turns out to only be around 40 minutes of content just going through a slightly new part of Area 0. The introduction of the new Stellar type, which from its explanation seems like it will be very strong in future raids, but I'm unsure how what it will be like competitively. Then we end up meeting and fighting Terapagos, which was a fun experience, especially seeing Kieran immediately throw a Pokemon at it when he saw it. Just freaking out about choosing the main character instead of him. There are still some unanswered questions I have, such as, what's the deal with the green orb powering the terrarium? It felt like that was going to be a bit of a bigger plot point, maybe having Terapagos in there powering the terrarium, or even where a Paradox Cobalion is. Maybe in that case, getting the other Paradox versions of the Swords of Justice, maybe that's what I need to complete the rest of the Pokedex for. I have not yet done that. I have seen that there is also going to be an additional epilogue coming out in January, so maybe that will answer some of my questions, but I wonder why they just didn't delay the Indigo Disc to make sure this was ready yet. Oh wait, gotta make that Christmas rush for Pokemon. Also, this was very apparent in the base game, but I feel it's even more so in the DLC. But these games really need to get some voice acting, at least for the cutscenes. But it would be nice to have it in more parts, just for general dialogue. Would I say this DLC and the game in total are worth $95? No, absolutely not. Mario Kart 8 is almost 10 years old now. Yay. God, I was in middle school when this game first came out. I've been playing this Mario Kart for a long time now, But I was very excited when Nintendo announced the Booster Course Pass as a great way to double the amount of tracks in the game, and also as a way to help us wait in between for the next Mario Kart game. While with the first 3 waves there were some issues, mainly with the graphics, it was great to have more tracks added to the game, and have more added throughout the next 2 years. This year we have had a very good selection of tracks, and it was a great choice to end with Rainbow Road from Mario Kart Wii, an all-time classic for me. I'd easily say that the standout for the Booster Course Pass has been Yoshi's Island. Such a great recreation of so many elements from the original games, from the music to all the different characters walking around, and especially Poochie on the mailbox. These 3 waves, we also got the unannounced and surprise inclusion to the Booster Course Pass with the addition of new playable characters. Really enjoyed the selection they gave us, with bringing back Birdo and Petey Piranha from Double Dash and Wiggler from Mario Kart 7. Finally freeing Diddy Kong from his $40 prison and tour, and also bringing back the main man Funky Kong. Always gotta bring back his glory days in Mario Kart Wii. Even brand new racers for the main game with Pauline and Peachette. And also, finally making Kamek a playable character in a traditional Mario Kart game after being in Mario Kart 64's beta. We also got a very good balance patches throughout the updates, finally stopping the menace of Waluigi Wiggler, and now creating a few new alternatives, but mainly the new meta is Yoshi with Teddy Buggy. Although, I am a bit confused why Piranha Plant Pipeline from Mario Kart Tour is not in this. It feels that part of the Booster Course Pass is to also preserve Tour's tracks for whenever they shut down its online servers. So it's a bit weird we got every other track from Tour except that. Oh well. Still very happy with the overall tracks selection. And if there was a track I was sad didn't get into the game, it would be Airship Fortress or either the Woohoo Island tracks. Really hope those 2 tracks get added in a future Mario Kart someday. Really excited to go through all these tracks soon again, as well. I really wish they added a way to play all 96 tracks in one go instead of 2 sets of 48 tracks. Happy that we truly have a definitive Mario Kart game. Some would also say Mario Kart Ultimate. But all I can say now is, I just really need a new Mario Kart with some new mechanics. I don't need it to be a launch title for the system, but please let it come out soon, or at least announce it when you announce the new system, Nintendo. I really enjoyed Sonic Frontiers last year. This was a great new change for the Sonic formula, and I think that the game was able to have a great first attempt in its open zone playstyle. When they announced free updates coming to the game, I was interested to see what it was going to be like, especially for the final update that was going to add new playable characters to the game. For a quick rundown of the other 2 updates, they were fun. The jukebox added a fun selection of different songs from the franchise, the new Cyber Zone and battle challenges were fun, but I still wish they would add the ability to just refight the Titans. There's still no real way to do that. But the real meat of the free updates was with the final Horizon update. As they promised, we got Amy, Knuckles, and Tails playable once again in a 3D Sonic game, after not being able to play as them since Sonic 06. We also got a different retelling for Uranos Island that also came with a great new final boss fight, instead of just a difficult game of Ikaruga. It was great to finally get to play as Sonic's friends. There are definitely some issues with them, but I think it's a good start for what can hopefully be used and improved in for future games. Once again with Sonic, we had some tower climbing, similar to what the 4th island had. It was definitely a difficult challenge, although I did not realize when I first played this that for some reason, I don't know how or when, but I was set back onto normal difficulty instead of being in hard mode. So I had a bunch of springs and balloons to be able to go through the towers. And it does seem from watching other players that were in hard mode, they are definitely difficult challenges. Sonic also has to complete some trials from the previous pilots of the Titans that went from very simple challenges where they gave plenty of time to do them to some very difficult ones. And then there was Master Coco's trial. While it was a good test to teach players how to use the new perfect parry, it being a 3-frame parry window when playing on hard mode makes it very difficult to perform, especially with the design of some of the Titan's moves to clearly not be made for such a short period of time. And add on top of that, only having 400 rings to face against the bosses make it so you cannot make a mistake while fighting them. Thankfully, since I have played this, there has also been a new update that adds a new difficulty to the game that allows players to change aspects of these trials and difficulty throughout the DLC. So that's nice to have. I didn't really show it off when playing it for the first time, but they did also add a bunch of other cyberspace levels. I only experienced one of them while playing through for the channel, but I have played the others since then, and they're all a lot of fun. While I definitely wish all of this could have been a part of the base game, these updates being free definitely makes the wait for them and the issues that are there much easier to deal with. And after playing through this, I'm very excited for what's to come to Sonic's future. And back to the new boss, it was great that they got a new version of I'm Here sung by Kellen Quinn, who sang all the other previous boss fight songs. So great to add another one to the Spotify playlist. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is a great return to 2D Mario, while also finally getting rid of the new style we've been playing since the DS. Crazy to think that the last new 2D Mario game we got was New Super Mario Bros. U back in 2012. While we did have Mario Maker 1 and 2 come out since then, they're more creation games than a handcrafted new Mario game that we have finally gotten with Mario Wonder. The Wonder effects really make this game. The amount of fun different gameplay styles that can show up in different levels, from being turned into different enemies, or the world having massive changes, or even changing the game to be played in a top-down perspective. There are so many different Wonder effects that it's always a joy to find out what the next one will be in the upcoming level. The animations in this game also have so much life to them, especially after having to play through the same kind of style we've had with the new games for such a long time. The musical levels are also a great new addition that are just fun to go through so many times. Like, everyone's seen the Piranha Plant level, but there's also a bunch of others, especially with the final level, or one of the final levels of the game. There's also a fun inclusion of different references to previous Mario games, and they're very fun to see. Getting to hear different tunes from games like Sunshine, or even having a Wonder mechanic making you play similar to Metal Mario and even bringing back his music. While it's too bad that there aren't any differences between any of the playable characters, it's still very fun to have many options available to players. And it's so good to finally have Daisy playable in a 2D Mario game. It does stink some that if you want to play as Yoshi or Nabbit, you're forced to essentially be playing in easy mode for the game. It would be nice if there was an option to allow you to still take damage while playing as those characters. The badge system in this game is also such a new, unique twist for 2D Mario that adds a lot of replayability from the previous Mario games, and even a ton of new gameplay additions, such as the wall climb badge or the tether rope. It's also able to recreate previous abilities, like a badge that's able to give a jump similar to Luigi's hover jump, or gliding for characters, while not exactly one-to-one with Peach's glide back in Super Mario Bros. 2, still a unique style to it, still being able to glide. Even the inclusion of more assistance-focused badges such as helping to survive any hits or finding secrets in the game. And then there's also the more extreme changes from some of the badges, such as the invisibility, or ones that force players to always be running or jumping. Players can choose to use one of these badges for a complete playthrough for the game and make a little bit of a challenge run for them. It's a great new system that I hope is able to be expanded on in future games, same for the wonder effects. Now, the bosses in this game definitely have some issues, mainly for the fact that they're all Bowser Jr. While there is some fun with the Bowser Jr. fights with different wonder effects, they all still feel mostly the same. However, the final boss in the game is great to go through and an absolute highlight for the game. But all the others are just a bit too boring and repetitive, and that's not even to mention some of the areas of the game that don't even have a boss fight at the end. It would be nice if 2D Mario was able to get bosses similar and as unique to many of the bosses in 3D games, instead of just having to repeat Bowser Jr. or the Koopalings. Although let's not talk about 3D Land, because that was just always Boom Boom or Pom Pom. I don't know why I didn't really mess around with the online connectivity for the game, but from watching the direct they had for the game, it does seem like a fun system. And more online play is always good, especially when it comes to Nintendo. From what I saw, it seems to run at least well, so that's also good. This has been a fun Mario game to go through, and I will definitely be enjoying future playthroughs of it, especially with family and friends, and I will be excited to try out the special levels in the game soon. I fell in love with the Fire Emblem series thanks to Awakening, the game that also saved the franchise. Three Houses also later came to the Switch, and I really enjoyed my time playing through it. The multiple different storylines for each house pretty much feels like what they were trying to do with Fire Emblem Fates, but without having to buy multiple games, and also having an actually good story. So it was going to be interesting to see what a new Fire Emblem game that was meant to be an anniversary title was going to be like. It was definitely interesting to see this game through the leaks that came out before its release of Alir's Crest toothpaste hair. But once we finally got our first official look of the game, I wouldn't say I was extremely excited. Thankfully, my perception changed once I finally got the game. While I do have a lot of issues with the story in the game, I do think a lot of the characters were able to shine through in the writing, and especially through the support conversations between each of them. Although there were some instances where I felt that some information that showed up in supports should have been acknowledged some in the story, such as Alfred is mentioned to have something throughout some of his support conversations, and it then kind of shows up as a big surprise during the epilogue for the game. The story kind of feels like traditional Fire Emblem, aka your heroes fighting a dragon. While there were a few surprises throughout the story, such as the Alir's actual pasts, I wouldn't say anything was too mind-blowing. And going to each country kind of felt like a similar aspect of go to the next country, meet one of the royal members and some of their retainers, then in the next level meet the next prince and their other retainers. It's also fun getting to explore around the Somniel, a new version of Garreg Monastery, but thankfully a bit smaller. It's fun getting to explore the area and getting to interact with each of the characters, and sometimes have them dressed up in some very funny outfits. Although I wish with outfits they could also show up in combat, instead of just only being available in the Somniel. It feels a little like a waste to not also have them shown there, but maybe it's something to do with animations, which I can understand. I'd easily say the standout for this game compared to other Fire Emblem games is the combat. It is personally some of the best in the franchise we've had. The biggest change is with the new emblem ring mechanic. These allow characters to bond with previous Fire Emblem characters and gain plenty of new abilities and one-time moves that can become game changers in a fight. This system is able to allow units to power themselves up greatly, and even change what tactics they might use, such as with Byleth's ring, where the character then might focus on trying to use his ability to act as an additional dancer. One smaller aspect of the emblem rings also present is the bond rings, which, while they can be helpful in the early game to give your other units that don't have emblem rings some boost to their stats, feel like they fall to the wayside once you get enough emblem rings, and even earlier if you have access to the DLC. The new break mechanic is also a great new inclusion that can help deal with players that just want to utilize one character to face attacks from tons of different foes, where if that unit is then hit by a weakness to them, they can then lose their weapon and be unable to counterattack until the player's next phase. I also really enjoyed a lot of the maps in this game, and it was especially fun going through some of the trials for the emblem rings, where you get to play through recreated maps from each of the rings games, such as Arena Ferox with Lucina. I also did enjoy the music for the game. The opening song is definitely a bit of a strange choice, but had some fun with it, and I think the theme for it definitely works with the game. The combat animations in this game are also always great to watch through. I'd say this is easily the closest a 3D Fire Emblem game has been able to capture the look of what the GBA attack animations look like, especially when comparing this game and previous critical hit animations. These just feel the closest to recapturing the GBA's attacks, such as with Lin's animation. While I enjoyed the DLC missions that were added, and also getting a few more emblem rings were fun, the story expansion at the end with the Fell Xenologue was a bit lacking. It might have been when the DLC finally came out, because I might have been starting to get burned out by the game, and the DLC came out at a much faster pace than I think most people were anticipating. Especially when I was planning on starting to play Metroid Prime Remastered when it released physically, and then getting the surprise release of another DLC pack that will show up later on the list. It just seemed to be sandwiched between too much, and wasn't as interesting as I wanted it to be. It also didn't help with Tears of the Kingdom coming a month later. It would have helped some if they also gave me characters I was a bit more interested in, and while getting alternatives to the 4 hounds to use in the game, the 2 new characters, Nell and Rafal, felt a little lacking. All in all, with the good and the bad, I would say I really did enjoy this game, and I'm excited for what Intelligent System has next for the Fire Emblem series. I haven't played many Souls games before starting to play Dark Souls. The closest thing I've played has been Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and while definitely a Souls-like, I have been told by some of my friends that you haven't really experienced a Souls game until you play Dark Souls. So, I finally decided to do that. And man, have I been having a blast. Alrighty. Dang it. Okay. Oh, great, there's another one. Well, they are called the Four Kings. What? Okay. Is there any way I can light this area up? Like, I doubt I'll be able to do it this attempt, but it'd be great for future attempts to be able to light this up some. Oh, is there another one behind me? Well, that'd be wonderful. Nope. Okay, I'm almost done with one of them. Nope, maybe not. Ah. I was not expecting for a big explosion.
You're stuck in the depths, buddy.
Just like in Zelda. I mean, I'm still having a good time. I'd easily say one of my favorite aspects for the game is the atmosphere. While I'll always make jokes on how dark and difficult it can be to see anything in this game, everything else from the world design and how it's complemented so well with the atmospheric music of the game. It always feels so comforting whenever I return to Firelink Shrine and hear its music again. I'll be honest, I don't really understand too much of what's going on with the story. I'm more just kind of defeating guys, and then every once in a while one of my friends informs me about some of the lore for the characters, and it definitely sounds interesting. I just don't really feel like that's being told very well throughout the game. It's more of a visual storytelling, or having to actually look through anything to learn about the lore. It's been a lot of fun to go through and finally see what so many video essays have been informing me about. The combat, boss fights, and difficulty of the game will always be the game's most well-known aspects. Having to learn so many parts of the bosses to defeat them is a great time, from the constant cycle of fighting them to dying and then trying again. The recent challenges I've been having through the game are with the hunt for the Lord Souls, and that's been great so far. I've enjoyed fighting the Bed of Chaos. The Four Lords were a fun, difficult challenge. So far, I'd still say some of my favorite boss fights have been fighting against the Gargoyles and Ornstein and Smaug. It's also been fun with this series having some of my friends that introduced me to start playing the game join in as well, and give me a few ideas on what to do, or just enjoying my suffering while fighting some bosses, or just dying repeatedly. I've really been enjoying my time with this game, and it really has made me understand what makes FromSoft so great, and really wish I wasn't unable to play the game for the few months my PC was broken. Heck, I probably would have been able to finish this first one if that wasn't the case. I can't wait to finish this game, though, and then try out some of their other games in the future, and especially trying out Elden Ring for the first time.
When you go looking for strength, it's not like a game. This journey doesn't have a real ending. Okay then, hope you're ready to begin. If you want to start off on the right foot in this city, hit the streets.
I'll be honest, I've never really been able to get into traditional fighting games. It's just something that has always been a bit difficult for me to get into, with all the different attacks and combos that require tons of different complex movements from the stick and all the different buttons. My main personal fighting games are more like Smash Bros. With platform fighters and Rivals of Aether, and arena fighters like Budokai Tenkaichi. Fighting games that are a bit simpler compared to something like Street Fighter or Tekken. While I have played other traditional fighting games like Street Fighter 4 and Marvel vs. Capcom, they've always been a bit difficult for me to get into, and I've mainly just enjoyed playing them and goofing around with my friends. The main ones I've tried to get into before has been Dragon Ball FighterZ and Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. And Soul Calibur 6, although I know that one's not a traditional 2D fighting game. It's more closer to Tekken, but with swords. But when I heard that Street Fighter 6 was going to have a modern control scheme, and having some of my friends also tried to get into this game for the first time, I decided why not, and joined them. And I have been so happy with that decision. This has been my most played game on Steam this year, and it's very clear why. Online matches in this game can be so addicting and fun, either playing casual or trying to go through the ranks in ranked mode. And while it's fun, I can also sometimes have some of the most infuriating moments against opponents or matches where I get beaten so badly, but also try to realize why I keep either making certain mistakes or trying to figure out what's the best counter for an opponent's constant move that they keep using. World Tour mode is also a really fun new story mode addition to the game. It's very nice that you're able to create your own character and also utilize different moves from all the different characters in the game. I do think the ending feels a little weird. Like, it felt like it was a bad ending that might change some with some of the DLC characters coming out, but I'm not too certain about that. It's really fun to level up your character, and the fact that you can even use your custom character in online matches in the Battle Hub is also a fun feature. Really excited to start doing that a bit more later. This game has really made me start enjoying labbing different combos and just trying to continue to practice what to do in training mode over and over again. And when you get a combo just right, it's such a fun feeling. While I mainly showed my time off in story mode, in World Tour mode, or for my playthrough, I've been playing a lot of online matches before I started going through World Tour mode and after. While Ken is my current main for the game, the main character I'm waiting for is Akuma. He was one of the main characters I played back in Street Fighter 4 and was usually on my team in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So I'm very excited to see how he plays in this game. Yes, he looks so good. While I still use modern controls, I want to try out using classic a bit more and see if I can actually try to learn with that style. But if not, I'm happy that modern is here. I do think some of the microtransactions they've had in this game do go a bit overboard with their cost. First, we had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collab, where if you wanted to get each of the Turtles outfits, it would cost you the equivalent of the price for the game. And recently, we've had the release for the third outfits for each of the characters, and with no way to bundle them together, they're also priced way too high. If this game were free to play, that would be one thing, but this is still a full-priced game that shouldn't have crazy practices like this. And while it's something that's in other games, I wouldn't call it a great thing. At least they should include some ways to get fighter coins to get these costumes through gameplay, like with the second alternative outfits being obtainable by completing World Tour mode. Either way, this game has made me really fall in love with more fighting games, and I want to try others in the future, probably Tekken 8 at some point. Can't wait to see what other characters they add in the future, because if it's anything like Street Fighter 5, this game should be getting support for a while.
I'm on the road to the top and I'm not looking back. I ain't never backing down. Come and step up to the plate. For my city, for my town. I do whatever it takes. I'ma go and get this crown. I'ma go all of the round. I ain't never backing down. Come and step up to the plate. For my city, for my town. I do whatever it takes. I'ma go and get this crown. To the top, see the sights, see the sights, see the sights, yeah.
Crisis Core was a game that I've never gotten the opportunity to truly play for a long time. Occasionally I tried playing it through other methods, but always put the game down and moved on to something else. But the story in this game was something I always enjoyed looking into, watching other playthroughs of it or just watching through all the cutscenes. Zack went from this side character that was important to Cloud's backstory into one of my new favorite characters, even getting a fun cameo in Birth by Sleep. I was very happy when during the 25th anniversary stream for Final Fantasy VII, there was the announcement for a remaster of Crisis Core, coming to all modern systems. This was finally my way to fully play through this game, and I had a fun time going through it. The story, as always, was easily the highlight for the game. Zack is still up there as one of my favorite video game characters. Seeing how he grows and his perspective on so many things change with each experience throughout the game. Something that also did not change much from the original version of the game was its combat. It felt akin to the portable Kingdom Hearts games to me. The DMW system is also as fun as it seemed to be in the original, but there can definitely be some annoyances with it being a randomized system. You could either get a very broken buff like invincibility or one of the super attacks, or you could get nothing for a while. Heck, even trying to level up in this game is randomized, where, yeah, you could sometimes get a quick succession of level ups, or get nothing for a while. The new art style for this remake definitely looks very nice, and gets the game much closer to matching the style of Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's also interesting that they did not update any of the CG cutscenes, but there was already so much effort put into those in the original game, that I can see why it wasn't something that was too necessary to change. I'd easily say my biggest gripe with this game is the new voice acting. While it is nice now that this game and 7 Remake now have a consistent voice cast, and I do enjoy most of the voice work done in this game, it's just hard for this new version to match my love of the original's voice acting. There are still some aspects, like with the voice direction for different scenes, I believe is stronger in the original. Also, while I do think Zack's new actor does work well for young Zack, he definitely doesn't match Rick Gomez's original performance.
What the hell did you do, Angeal? What the hell did you do, Angeal? Boy, oh boy. The price of freedom is steep. Embrace your dreams. And whatever happens, protect your honor. As soldier! Come and get it!
Boy, oh boy. The price of freedom is steep. Embrace your dreams. And whatever happens, protect your honor. As soldier! Come and get it!
It would have been nice if there was an option to go back to the original English audio. Either way, this game's story always gets to me. The final moments of the game always get at my heartstrings, and I'm very interested and scared at what might be going on with the next game on my list. This game has always been a favorite, and now with this remaster, it will be even more important to me now than ever.
Embrace your dreams. If you want to be a hero, you need to have dreams. Thank you. I won't forget. Good night.
に一人で寂しい夜に抱きしめ
Final Fantasy VII is up there as one of my favorite games that I've played. So, of course, I was so excited when we got to see Final Fantasy VII in beautiful HD 3D graphics. But then we found out it was just a tech demo for the PS3. But, thankfully, a few years later, we then finally got the announcement for a true remake of Final Fantasy VII. It took a long time from its announcement for it to come out, and even longer for me to play it since I hadn't gotten to play it until it was available on PC. And all I can say is, this is definitely not a remake of Final Fantasy VII. As I've learned as a fan of the Kingdom Hearts franchise, Nomura can be a very fun fellow when it comes to stories in his games. While this game definitely starts like it should be a remaster or a remake of the game, it becomes so much more as the game goes on, becoming something that feels more of a retelling but also a sequel, maybe? Honestly, it's even hard for me to know sometimes. This game really goes places. But besides the story, the new combat system gets an amazing new action style that I really enjoy, making so many combat encounters so much fun, and being able to swap between each of the characters mid-combat was a great way to see what each of them were able to play like, or change if I needed to utilize a different style or technique. Each of them are also really fun to play as, although I definitely say my favorites were Cloud and Tifa. Each of the new skills that you can learn from all of their weapons as well make it fun to master each one, so you can then keep using any skills from other weapons. The new upgrade system for weapons is also very fun, and even allows you to use weapons like the Buster Sword to be able to be used throughout the entire campaign without feeling too weak. While the other swords can still be stronger, it's not as bad of a difference. The new characterization for everyone that we knew from in the first game also helps to make everyone feel very fleshed out, even a bunch of the side characters. Even the main cast feels a lot better, because before Remake, the last big time we got a lot of characterization for them was in Advent Children, and while I do enjoy that film, definitely has some issues with the writing. Even some of the changes in the story allow for characters to grow more. I care a lot more for these versions of Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge compared to the original. Each chapter throughout the game is also a lot of fun, but it can be annoying when you realize you missed a side quest or important or good item that then events happen in the game that cause you not to be able to finish it. Thankfully, once you do finish the game, you are free to go back to any point of the game to finish anything else. I also love some of the new interpretations of events in the game, especially the Honeybee Inn. What a fun and extremely unexpected side event. All the boss fights in this game are also a lot of fun, from returning fights with the guard Scorpion or Rufus Shinra, to completely new fights with new character Roche. I would say one thing I am interested in is this interpretation of Sephiroth, because in the original game, you don't even see him until you start recounting the Nibelheim incident, and the only fight against him is the final one. While with this game, he's constantly showing up and is even the final boss fight for the game, which, while still very fun, is a little weird, especially as a fan of the original game. Also, what the heck is going on with Zack? I really don't know what they're going to be doing with this character. I assume I'll be learning more with Rebirth. I'm just confused. The new music throughout the game also does a great job reimagining all of 7's classic tracks, and One Winged Angel Rebirth is such a great composition, combining almost all aspects of the previous versions of the song, from the original version to what we even heard in Advent Children. Something that wasn't in the initial release of Remake is the new Integrate chapter, where you get to play as Yuffie and a new character, Sonon. It's very fun to get to play as this soon-to-be main party member and see what she's been doing during the events of the rest of the game. We also get a good look of how she might play in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, while also showing what might be a new combat element for Rebirth with different combo attacks with a partner. Fort Condor was also a nice little minigame that I had a lot of fun playing. It was also fun to even get some references to Dirge of Cerberus with Nero, and the new super boss of the game, Weiss, who I still need to beat. I cannot wait for 7 Rebirth, and I am also very interested to see where the story will be going from here. Hopefully it doesn't take too long for it to come to PC, or I might just need to get a PS5 now, but I'll probably be waiting for whenever Kingdom Hearts 4 to get a date to see when to make that decision.
I miss it. The steel sky.
I would be lost, drifting alone, floating up high, time after time.
Xenoblade has been a series that I've really been able to fall in love with thanks to the Switch. My first introduction to the series was borrowing the original game for the Wii, playing it some, but never finishing it. I think I only ever got past the Colony 9 instant, but always wanted to play through the game. Then we had Shulk coming into Smash, and then shortly after we had the release of Xenoblade X, where I had another chance to try to get into the series. Although, with that one, it was definitely different from the rest of the series, more focused on its exploration, and sadly, once again, didn't really finish, but I did get further into it. Then, in 2017, during the Switch's first presentation, we got our first look of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. This was the game that made me fall in love with the series. From the story, characters, combat, world exploration, and so much more. Gacha elements could be a little bit annoying though. Then, a few years later, right before I was about to start finally playing through the first game, we had the announcement that they'd be remastering the first Xenoblade Chronicles for the Switch, and with the inclusion of cut content from the first game, with Future Connected. It was wonderful to finally get to finish the first game, and fall in love with it through this amazing remaster. Then came the announcement of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in the March Direct of 2022. A game that seemed to collide the worlds of the first two games together, and even hinted at the return of familiar faces. While Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes was the first game I made a full playthrough of for this channel, It was all in preparation for playing through Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This game easily became my game of the year last year, giving me so many new characters that I fell in love with, a great story, and a new world to fall in love with and explore. The only thing that I felt was missing from the game was a little more fan service, although it wasn't something I needed, but it would have been nice to have. We had a nice return of Melia and Nia, and the image that made the entirety of all the Xenoblade 2 fans go crazy. It would have been fun to get to see Shulk and Rex again. So, just like with Xenoblade 2 and its DLC, with the final wave including Torn of the Golden Country, when DLC was announced for Xenoblade 3, I was very excited to see what this was going to be like. When the game finished, it really became a question of what the expansion story was going to be, whether it took place after the events of the main game, or showing the story from the past, likely with the founders of the city that you can see statues of. And that is what we got. I love the new playable cast that we have for this expansion. Matthew's a really enjoyable new character and has a striking resemblance to a character from Xenogears. A allows for more exploration and explanations on what's going on with the connections between 3 and the previous games. And it's great to see Shulk and Rex again, and seeing how they've grown and changed is great. Even having a few design aspects from each of their mentors. Then you also have the new introductions of Nicole and Glimmer, 2 freed soldiers from Kevis and Agnes that have great connections and chemistry between Shulk and Rex. Being able to return back to Colony 9 is also such an amazing feeling, similar to whenever I go back to Firelink in Dark Souls. It just feels so familiar, but also new with all the vegetation that's growing around it and how it's changed over all these years and its time in Ionios. Exploring the new and familiar areas as well is a great time, and I love the new map challenges that they've scattered throughout the area. It makes trying to 100% complete this expansion very clear, while also being a fun time. I love the new challenges to 3's combat systems in this game as well. It still has its core functions, being able to switch between the 6 characters, using arts and fusion arts, but I love being able to mix and match each of the characters to get different combo attacks that replace the interlinking system from 3. The story for this expansion is also able to tie up all the Chronicle games together and give more story that's able to help set up and give a better understanding of Xenoblade's story, especially with N. But there is also the surprise of bringing in elements from Xenogears as well as Xenosaga, which becomes very clear that with the Xenoblade series, with the moments near the end of the game, as well as having Bandai Namco's name in the credits. I still need to play through those games, and I really hope at some point they'll be able to get remasters as well. I really enjoyed this expansion, and I can't wait to see what's next for Monolith Soft and what they'll do with the Xenoblade series now.
Open your eyes.
Back in 2017, on March 5th, my mom and I went to our local Target very early in the morning because she had heard that they would be getting more Switches, but it was first come, first served. If anyone remembers what it was like getting a Switch when it first came out, there was some difficulty with getting it. Thankfully, that day I was finally able to get my system, and with getting my Switch, a copy of Breath of the Wild. I played that game for such a long time, going through the story, finding all the shrines, finishing up every side quest, and just simply enjoying the vast world of Hyrule. This game became the new standard for what future open worlds should be like. Then, in 2019, right after getting the dream announcement of Banjo and Kazooie finally coming to Smash Bros., we all got a major surprise when Nintendo announced that they would be making a sequel to Breath of the Wild. The darker tone of the trailer had everyone talking about it, how it could be like Majora's Mask, take a much darker version of the story, and with utilizing a lot of the assets for the game, this should allow for it not to take too long to come out. Then we waited. Then 2020 happened, and we kept waiting, only getting small looks at the game, such as a single scene of Link looking at the broken Master Sword. And then we learned we'd also be exploring through the sky of Hyrule. But Nintendo still had us wondering what the title for the game would be. After more trailers and looks at the game, Tears of the Kingdom finally released in May this year, and as Nintendo's first $70 game. Is that price and amount of time worth waiting for it? Yes. I enjoyed almost every moment of playing through this game, especially with continuing a challenge I had when playing Master Mode for Breath of the Wild, where I would use fast travel very sparingly. Only times I remembered using it during this playthrough was at the beginning of the game, getting back to the Rewind Shrine, just cause time reasons, and one incident where I kind of forgot Ascend was an ability and couldn't get out of the well. This allowed me once again to just fall in love with exploring the world of Hyrule, remembering great locations from the first game, and finding new secrets with all the different caves and wells that have been added to the game, and always fun Koroks to find. Even finding NPCs that were in the first game and seeing where they are now, or seeing how different towns have changed up, especially with Hateno Village. It was also a fun surprise finding out that the game carries over the horses that you had in Breath of the Wild to this game as well. While I didn't really use too many horses in Breath of the Wild, it was fun still having Epona there in my stables waiting for me to return, and even some of my other horses, such as the giant horse that everyone rumored was Ganon's horse. The biggest surprise for the game, I would say, would be the introduction of the depths, which, unlike the sky, wasn't even hinted at all in most of the promotional material for the game, or even talked about in any interviews from the developers. It was fun to explore this brand new world for the first time that was also a small mirror to the above ground, especially with how the shrines and the light routes are connected with each other. The inclusion of the new abilities really give this game its own identity from Breath of the Wild, especially with the Ultrahand. Such a unique tool that has allowed so many players to create so many unique, wacky, and weird creations. It once again allows so many challenges to complete it however the player wants to, just from creativity. It has been so much fun seeing what people have been able to create with this tool, from different mechs to new ways to explore the world even faster, and of course, all of this. Even the other new abilities like Ascend, Rewind, and Fuse allow you so many new possibilities for completing challenges. Fuse allows a fun way to still have rare weapons, such as the elemental weapons from the first game, without making players not want to waste these rare weapons, and just being able to keep making them as long as you have the items to fuse with. It's very impressive how with these abilities, how many times they feel like they technically should not work at all, from all the different Ultrahand creations or utilizing Rewind and Ascend to do crazy things. The fact that it just works, and especially on the Switch, is very impressive and shows how well the developers understand this game engine. A lot of the shrines throughout the world also do a great job at teaching players what's possible and all the new ways to think on how to solve puzzles with these new abilities. Or you could go a tried and true method of rocket plus shield. There's also plenty of new dangers in Hyrule, from smaller enemies to new major bosses, from the Frox in the depths to the Gleeoks that are always great threats to face. And you always still have the always persistent Lynels. The new dungeons that are present in this game are also a fine improvement over the divine beasts from Breath of the Wild, but they still feel mostly the same. It's not as big of an improvement as I would have wanted it to be. But I can understand that there is some difficulty in trying to make dungeons similar to the classic Zelda games in this much more open format. I did really enjoy the new challenges that led up to the dungeons, such as with the Wind Temple or the Water Temple, and I definitely enjoyed the new boss fights that are in the game. And the ability to fight against these bosses again in the depth is a great feature. Facing off against each of the dungeons with new sage partners is also a great way to get to have fun with different party members that are then able to join you throughout exploring the world. Although it does get a little bit annoying when you get all of the sages, and it can start to become difficult to use any sage's specific abilities since they all cluster together. While the story definitely wasn't as dark as many were thinking it was going to be, it was still a great time learning about Zelda's journey through Hyrule's founding and seeing Rauru, Sonia, and especially Ganondorf. He was a great new addition to this game. While I definitely wouldn't say this game is as groundbreaking for the gaming landscape, and exploring the skies definitely wasn't as grand as the trailer showed off, Tears of the Kingdom was absolutely worth the wait, and I had so much fun getting to finally play through it. I am so excited for what is going to be coming up in 2024. And hopefully I'll also be able to go back and finish up some games that I haven't been able to play yet, such as Star Wars Jedi Survivor or even Hi-Fi Rush. Hope you all enjoyed the video and have enjoyed my channel so far. And big thanks to everyone that's subscribed this year. It really helps me stay motivated to keep making stuff for this channel and try to keep improving. So, hope to see y'all next time and hope y'all have a great year.